She is a princess imprisoned in a tower. Yet she falls in love with a slave of lowly birth. Her brother considers this a scandal that brings shame to the royal family, forcing her into an arranged marriage with a stranger. The slave risks his life to climb into her room at midnight. Ailona nervously glances around, fearing their secret meeting will be discovered. Kazan removes the hood covering his head and gazes at the girl with deep affection. Ailona throws herself into his arms for a tight embrace. Kazan gently kisses her forehead. There's no time to waste. He must quickly tell Ailona the urgent matter. Recently, news has been spreading throughout the kingdom. Princess Ailona is to marry King Vaharan. Ailona has no choice. As long as she can escape this palace, she doesn't care what her brother demands. Kazan loves her, but she refuses to accept his feelings. It was clearly Ailona who said she wanted to elope with him. Now she wants to break her word. But Ailona has made up her mind and doesn't want to explain to him. This eagerness to distance herself from him deeply wounds Kazan. His expression changes as he removes the black robe from his body. Ailona continues making excuses to salvage the situation, unaware that danger approaches. Kazan reaches out and pins her firmly beneath him. Ailona screams in terror. She struggles violently against Kazan. He looks at her with wounded eyes and tears falling. "Why are you treating me this way? I thought it was fake. How could a noble princess get involved with a lowly slave?" Antonio smirks wickedly at the two on the bed. "Drag that vile creature away immediately." Ailona and Kazan are forcibly separated by the guards. At dawn, Kazan will face severe trial. Ailona struggles desperately to plead for the man, but her cold and cruel brother is determined to put him to death. To save her lover, Ailona can only kneel and apologize. "Brother, I beg you to spare him. I'll do anything you ask." "Anything? Even if it means you'll lose everything because of this?" The next morning, the king receives notice of the broken engagement. He flies into a rage, believing Ailona has disgraced the royal family. Antonio watches from the sidelines, constantly fanning the flames. At the father's command, the noble princess will be locked in the tower forever, forbidden to leave without his permission. Facing the coldness of her brother and father, Ailona cries and laughs bitterly. The only warmth in her memory is Kazan. As long as she can save him, she's willing to accept any punishment. But tragedy strikes again. The path that was supposed to lead to the eastern tower suddenly changes direction. When Ailona realizes what's happening, her lover suddenly fell to the ground. Her brother hasn't spared Kazan, but cruelly executes him before her eyes. Ailona remembers their first meeting. Her brother has harbored malicious hatred toward her since childhood because her birth status is higher than his. To force Ailona into submission, he always threatens innocent lives. Ailona has no choice but to accept her fate. But this time her brother escalates his cruelty. Trading 2 lives for 1 still doesn't satisfy him. Ailona kneels and pleads, utterly humbled before her brother. Antonio remains silent. He was jealous of Ailona's father's love and the care of her noble mother, the queen. Nothing brings him more pleasure than tormenting Ailona. Ailona quickly tells Kazan and the others to leave, but Kazan refuses to go no matter what. He worries about Ailona's safety. Ailona clearly knows that even if Antonio kills them, he wouldn't truly harm her. "Their leaving would actually be helping me." Antonio smirks wickedly as he draws his bow and aims at Ailona. She's frightened but dares not offend this madman again. The sharp arrow flies toward her. At the critical moment, a strong hand pulls it away. Antonio looks displeased at his failed attempt. Ailona is shocked and confused. Kazan's action undoubtedly crosses her brother's line. His situation will become extremely dangerous. Kazan doesn't care about these consequences. "I promise to protect Her Highness." Ailona thinks of past memories and tears stream down her face. After being caught by her brother, she has been in the Eastern Tower for 7 years. Afraid of forgetting Kazan, she develops the habit of keeping a diary. The situation outside is chaotic now. Her brother has successfully claimed the throne and become king. But the once defeated nation of Ashatla has returned with vengeance. The war has continued for 3 years, bringing suffering to both peoples. Ailona can do nothing but pray daily for the war to end quickly. But this time the tower door suddenly opens from outside. The war is over. The Ashatla people have defeated the Paseon people. All the people in the Paseon palace have been captured. Ailona is brought before the Ashatla king by soldiers. They must face judgment as the defeated nation. Kazan is dead. Ailona doesn't care about life or death, even feels this is liberation. However, as she enters the Great Hall, her brother Antonio suddenly approaches her. He frantically shouts that the person has arrived. According to the agreement, they can spare him. The man on the high platform speaks coldly. "Did we make an agreement?" Ailona looks up in disbelief. This voice is Kazan's. Antonio, realizing he's been deceived, completely disregards his humiliated state, shouting and screaming about Kazan's past humiliations. Kazan has no intention of sparing him. He takes up his long sword and thrusts it fiercely into his thigh. The entire hall is suddenly filled with screams. Ailona kneels on the ground, terrified. Kazan's anger hasn't subsided. Someone pull out his tongue and throw him in the wagon. "I want him to truly experience the suffering of the Ashatla people." Antonio looks to his sister in terror for help, but Ailona trembles, barely able to protect herself. "Princess of Paseon, please raise your head." The man's cold voice carries no warmth. "Princess of Paseon, I must hold you accountable for your defeated nation's crimes. According to custom, this would be death. But thinking of my people's suffering, Death would be too lenient for you. Kazan reaches out and places a collar around Ailona's neck. I will strip you of your princess status and punish you to become the Ashatla king's bedchamber slave. Ailona looks completely shocked, never expecting this turn of events. Before she can even react, the man is ready to claim her. Ailona sits nervously on the bed's edge, feeling the collar around her neck. Even at this moment, she still can't believe Kazan is alive. After all, she witnessed everything with her own eyes back then. Kazan had collapsed in her arms. An Ashatla king cannot be of slave origin. Although Ailona thinks this, her heart believes more that this is her Kazan. The man approaches her with a serious expression. Ailona's eyes moisten as tears continuously fall. However, this expression greatly displeases Kazan. He believes she's looking down on his former slave identity. Ailona becomes extremely excited. Hearing these words confirms this is definitely her Kazan. She tremblingly reaches out to touch his face, but Kazan slaps her hand away. He speaks harshly to her. Ailona shrinks back in fear. Before meeting you, I wondered what expression you would make. Sure enough, you're as detestable as always. Ailona doesn't understand why he says this, but Kazan's emotions are unusually volatile. He doesn't want to hear Ailona mention anything from the past. That night 7 years ago, the girl personally shattered their relationship. Now keeping Ailona here is only to torment her severely. Kazan violently presses her beneath him. Ailona, remember your identity. You're just a bedchamber slave here to atone. Kazan urgently demands from Ailona. The sudden change leaves the girl completely overwhelmed. She carefully pushes away the man above her. There seems to be a great misunderstanding between us. I think we need to clear this up. Not wanting to be hurt by emotions again, the obsessive Kazan gives her no opportunity. His hands become increasingly aggressive. Perhaps being a princess for too long, you don't even know what a bedchamber slave is supposed to do. Well, now I'll give you the answer. Kazan embraces Ailona domineeringly and traps her beneath him. He has waited for this moment for who knows how long. Through thousands of nights, Kazan has thought of nothing but revenge. When Ailona is truly reduced to a slave, Kazan feels immense satisfaction. His actions become increasingly bold and twisted. Ailona cries hoarsely for him to stop, but the man remains unmoved. Ailona's hands are firmly pinned by him. Kazan has wanted to do this to her for a very long time, but back then as a slave he was always rejected by Ailona. This time he won't stop no matter what. Ailona's eyes moisten with tears. Kazan has never been like this before. He was always so obedient and gentle, completely different from now. But she must admit Ailona enjoys this. Although there are misunderstandings between them, Ailona believes that with proper explanation their relationship can return to what it was. She thinks naively. But the next day, she's dragged and thrown into a slave wagon. Her limbs are shackled with heavy chains. She will travel to Ashatla as a slave. Her body still burns with pain from below. Ailona looks utterly disheveled and pitiful. Last night's Kazan was truly terrifying, a side of him she'd never seen. Conversation from soldiers outside the wagon drifts in. They immediately recognize this as the enemy nation's princess of Patien's wagon. Thinking of their compatriots who suffered humiliation, they wish they could personally kill all the Patian people. Letting enemies step on their soil would be an injustice to the fallen soldiers. The two soldiers decide to take action themselves. Ailona huddles in the corner, too nervous to speak. The two soldiers swagger in from outside, looking at the soft woman on the ground, feeling no sympathy but only hatred for Patian people. He excitedly draws his long machete. Want to beg for your life? I suggest you go to the underworld. Ailona looks in terror at the raised blade. Having just reunited with Kazan, she doesn't want to die. Do you want to die? The man's icy voice echoes in the narrow wagon. Ailona cries in fear. Her Kazan has come to rescue her. When the blade passes over Ailona's head, she thinks she's truly finished. But suddenly Kazan's voice rings out. He glances displeasedly at the two soldiers who acted without orders. Touching what shouldn't be touched only leads to death. Blood from the soldier's throat splatters everywhere. Ailona curls up on the ground in terror. Honestly, this brutal side of Kazan frightens her greatly. The chain around her neck is pulled up. Ailona is led by the man like a pet. As if not satisfied enough, he roughly grabs Ailona's chin. The girl's body shows no signs of injury. Kazan releases her uninterestedly. He orders his subordinates to move Ailona to a wagon close to his own, arranging soldiers to guard her strictly. The convoy has crossed Ashatra's border. They decide to camp in the desert tonight. Ailona's wagon is opened again. A dark-skinned woman speaks coldly. Get up! His Majesty has summoned you tonight. Ailona nervously steps onto the barren sand. There's no imagined sharp pain. The sand is very soft. The dark-skinned woman shows some impatience, urging Ailona not to delay and to hurry along. You should know that the person Ailona serves is the king of Ashatla, the heir chosen by the god Sindel. For any woman, this is the highest honor. A person chosen by the gods? Ailona had heard Kazan speak of this before. The king of Ashatla cannot be just anyone. They must receive divine recognition. The land of Ashatla worships 4 great gods. Only by inheriting one of their divine powers can someone become king. The new king also receives that god's power to protect Ashatla. Ailona had once longed to visit Ashatla. Now her wish is fulfilled, but she's become a prisoner. Ailona is pushed into a narrow tent. She picks up a dress from the ground. Unexpectedly, it's traditional Ashatla clothing. She quickly removes her own dress. But suddenly, there's movement from a basket in the corner. A large scorpion emerges from there, its tail raised with a sharp poisonous stinger. Ailona jumps in fright. That thing is clearly venomous. She nervously reaches for a lid on the shelf. The moment she grabs it, she throws it at the scorpion. Fortunately, the scorpion is trapped under the lid. The dark-skinned woman leads Ailona to Kazan's tent. But seeing Ailona's dirty appearance, Kazan's mood becomes very irritated. Thinking someone has bullied her again, Ailona recounts what happened while changing clothes. Thanks to Kazan's previous warnings, she wasn't hurt by the scorpion. She shyly lowers her head. Kazan, thank you for saving me once again. Hearing Ailona's grateful words, Kazan's anger spikes dramatically. He walks directly to the woman. Save you? Ailona, you're truly laughably naive. I save you only because I don't like others touching what's mine. After all, you're a very valuable bedchamber slave. Ailona feels this will be exhausting, so she takes this opportunity to speak openly. 7 years ago, after Ailona was caught by her brother Antonio, to protect Kazan, she had no choice but to make a decision. So when visiting Kazan in prison, she said many hurtful things in front of him, even completely denying the years of love they'd shared. Kazan, full of love for Ailona, simply couldn't believe it. Convinced that Antonio must have forced her to say this. Brother Antonio was listening from the corner of the prison. Ailona didn't dare admit the truth. She resolutely claimed she never believed in Kazan, using his most hated slave identity to deny everything. When she left, there wasn't a moment's hesitation. This deeply wounded the already sensitive and insecure Kazan. Although Ailona says that everything back then was done at Antonio's instruction, the damage has already been done. Kazan has sustained himself with this hatred until now. It's also because of this sufficiently strong resentment that he became king of Ashatla. Kazan, I know you've suffered greatly, but everything I did was to protect you. Kazan's eyes turn red. His hand grips Ailona's collar and tightens it forcefully. No matter what Ailona says, he won't believe her. Right now, he only wants to return that past pain as revenge. Ailona is thrown forcefully onto the sofa by him. Ailona, stop your resistance. Since you've chosen to be someone else's slave, you should have the awareness of being a slave. Kazan madly targets Ailona's pain points. But the stubborn Ailona refuses to bow her head. He has no choice but to bring out a mysterious liquid to teach her a lesson. He recklessly pours the liquid over Ailona's body. Ailona's entire body itches unbearably and she cries out, Kazan, you're insane! What are you trying to do? Kazan says nothing, gripping her thighs as their bodies press tightly together. Ailona beneath him goes completely rigid, not daring to move. This greatly displeases Kazan. He grows bolder, taking liberties with her body. Ailona's face flushes red as she begs the man to spare her. Kazan's face shows satisfaction with his smile. Regardless of everything, he begins a new round of assault. Only when Ailona can't take it anymore and faints does he finally stop. There's movement outside the tent. It's that dark-skinned woman. Kazan looks somewhat displeased, but seeing the exhausted Ailona, he orders the dark-skinned woman to bring him another bottle of oil. The dark-skinned woman looks at the unconscious Ailona in great surprise. Lord Kazan, you actually wasted such precious oil on this woman? Kazan is indifferent. You don't need to concern yourself with my affairs. Besides, the effect is the same when used on her. The dark-skinned woman shyly lowers her head at his words, but her gaze toward Ailona is filled with jealousy. When the wagons reach Faram, the capital of Ashatla, the people in the city are extremely excited. They loudly welcome Kazan, their new king. Kazan basks in glory throughout the journey. Ailona in the wagon is also attracted by this lively scene. She can't help but peek out. Faram outside the window is much more prosperous than she imagined. Despite years of civil war, this city still gives an impression of beauty and wealth. Reaching this city wasn't easy either. Along the way, Ailona hasn't been idle. She's gathered 2 rather important clues. First, the totem on Kazan's arm is evidence of divine protection. Second, Brother Antonio will be publicly executed. The specific punishment Ailona isn't sure about, it seems related to divine law. Kazan, as the new king, exists like a god in his subjects' hearts. He definitely knows something. Ailona calmly huddles in the corner thinking, when suddenly her wagon comes under attack from stones. It's the Ashatla people. They become extremely agitated at the sight of Persian people, wishing they could beat them to death with whatever tools they have. Curses rise one after another. Ailona panics and curls up in the small corner. Worse still, her wagon is suddenly opened from outside. Amid the shouting, she's thrown out. Her body hits the ground with a huge collision sound. Just hearing it makes one feel the pain. Your Highness! Ailona has just raised her head when she hears someone calling her. She struggles to get up and look. That person is actually a Persian citizen, one of her former subjects. Ailona can't bear to see her former subjects suffer. Completely disregarding her exposed identity as a defeated nation's princess, she actually helps the Persian person in front of the crowd. Such behavior is undoubtedly suicidal. An Ashatla person in the corner has long been dissatisfied with Persian people. He picks up a hard stone and secretly approaches the wagon. Taking advantage of Ailona's relaxed guard, he rushes forward. Die, Persian person! Ailona panics and covers her head with both hands. Fortunately, a soldier leader stops the attacker. Listen, these Persian people have been chosen to receive Sindal's judgment. Sindel uses divine power to help everyone resolve their anger. We should calmly set aside our rage. Hearing it's Lord Sindel's instruction, the people don't continue making trouble. The leader orders the man in the wagon to come down and prostrate himself. Ailona wants to plead for him. The leader refuses. As the defeated, regardless of who it is, this is deserved. Ashatra's victory banquet is about to begin. Ailona needs to stand and serve for long periods. A soldier brings her a bottle of ointment. Ailona grips it tightly. Her mind thinks of that soldier. He's seriously injured and clearly needs this more. So taking advantage of the soldier's distraction, she quietly slips away. But she bumps into Kazan right at the main entrance. Such reckless behavior greatly displeases him. This morning's incident at the wagon was already extremely risky. Ailona is no longer Princess of Paishon but a criminal of Ashatra. Such conspicuous behavior makes things very difficult for Kazan. Ailona feels somewhat wronged. I just wanted to help the injured person. These words not only fail to gain Kazan's approval, but earn her his merciless mockery. Ailona doesn't understand. Don't you want to see me miserable and suffering? Why are you stopping me from going to die? Let you die. Ailona, don't think it's that simple. I want you to spend the rest of your life by my side, suffering. The divine punishment ritual is about to begin. If you continue being so reckless, I have no choice but to push you out there, Kazan warns Ailona furiously. The victory banquet in the palace hall begins smoothly, with Ailona assigned to stand beside Kazan as a wine-serving maid. Looking at the joyful faces of the people below, Ailona feels indescribable emotions. The fall of Paishon seems to bring joy to everyone. As a princess, she received no honor during her reign, and now she must be forced to bear the associated responsibility. Ailona, you're truly laughable. Kazan looks at Ailona with amusement. Pour the wine. Don't tell me you can't endure even this small humiliation. There will be many more such situations in the future. I don't care whether what you say is lies or truth, but if you're dead, I won't be able to hear it anymore. Kazan looks at Ailona with amusement. His words undoubtedly give her hope to live again. Perhaps if the misunderstanding is resolved, their relationship can return to what it was before, just as the guard gives an order. Patisha brings her family to the center of the hall. Hanoku, Patisha's father, is a powerful prime minister, who can be said to be second only to the emperor in Ashatra. He speaks without propriety, openly selecting a consort for Kazan in front of him. The more excited he becomes, the more he personally finds a queen candidate for Kazan. No one is more suitable than those who serve loyally under the emperor. Such as my daughter, Patisha, who has served devotedly by Kazan's side since the civil war. Hanoku points to his daughter, his face beaming with undisguised joy. Ailona beside the throne looks troubled. She knows Kazan hates being threatened most. No one has ever been so bold. Patisha assumes she can get her wish, solemnly promising that if she joins the royal family, she can serve Ashatra even more wholeheartedly. Kazan accepts this proposal with a grave expression. Patisha thinks she has succeeded and is about to respond, but then hears Kazan's cold words, I will arrange a room in the palace, so she can better fulfill her duties as a subject. Patisha's face falls to rock bottom. This is not the result she wanted. But she dares not object to Kazan's command, so she can only drag Ailona down with her. Your Majesty, are you being too tolerant of her? The people demand her life, but the execution date hasn't even been set yet. Why not hold it today on this auspicious occasion? Ailona's hands holding the wine bottle tremble constantly. Kazan's face turns cold with displeasure. Let me say it again. This woman is not a princess but my slave. From now on, I don't want to hear any suggestions about how to deal with her. Hanoku tries to use national precedent to coerce him, but Kazan doesn't indulge him at all. Speaking of punishment, I remember you once tried to usurp the throne. Hanoku's face stiffens. Kazan is not someone to mess with, so he can only back down. Kazan raises his wine cup to toast the brave warriors. The banquet reaches its climax for a moment. The performing soldiers are in high spirits, and amid the joyful cheers, a death row prisoner is brought in. Ailona's face turns pale with shock. It's her brother Antonio. Pressed to the ground like an animal, Kazan on the throne walks toward him step by step. What awaits him will be the most painful divine punishment. She thought divine punishment would be some torturous, cruel punishment. But the man takes out a dagger and cuts his palm, letting his own blood drip onto Antonio bit by bit. The unharmed Antonio screams in pain, his eyes flickering and dodging, as if he's seeing some terrible monster. Ailona behind him covers her mouth and nose in fear. Is this so-called judgment really this? Kazan murmurs a few words to the sky. Sensing danger, Antonio's body begins to shake and struggle, but obviously everything is in vain. Kazan places his hand on his head. God will purify your ugly souls, so disappear in peace. With that, Antonio instantly turns into a pile of white bones and vanishes in the air, leaving only the chains clanking crisply on the ground. The banquet warriors cheer and celebrate joyfully. Only Ailona in the corner is terrified beyond measure. She truly didn't expect that Kazan, whom she hadn't seen for years, had grown so terrifyingly powerful, possessing divine power strong enough to easily take human lives. Hanoku flatters him with compliments, his deliberately ingratiating words attracting many gossiping warriors who clamor for him to tell everyone. During the most intense period of the Civil War, Kazan secretly joined Ashatra's mercenaries under a false identity. But because of his great courage, people soon discovered his princely identity. Kazan wanted to become a ruler of a nation, and after deep consideration, they decided to support him. After defeating a prince, the day of redemption soon arrived. That day's encounter was unforgettable for everyone. Kazan, along with an unremarkable prince, gained divine recognition, not only lifting the curse, but also gaining immortal life. Ailona looks at Kazan beside her in amazement. She seems to have never truly understood this man. Kazan observes Ailona's every move, but she actually shows fear and terror, which greatly irritates Kazan. He instructs Patricia to escort her to Manhwa Palace. Manhwa Palace is reserved for the queen's chambers. Patricia thinks she heard wrong. As a slave, Ailona has no right to be there. She confirms with Kazan 3 times. Kazan's face darkens as he glares at Patricia. In my territory, what I say is the rule. Patricia, fearing to anger this man again, says no more. On the way to Manhwa Palace, when only the 2 of them are present, Ailona takes the opportunity to ask Patricia about clues regarding the Day of Redemption. However, Patricia's attitude suddenly changes drastically, and she viciously slaps Ailona across the face. She really doesn't understand why Ailona, with her deathly appearance, can always effortlessly attract Kazan's attention. Patricia can't stand it at all. She wishes she could dispose of Ailona right now. You want to kill her? A man's powerful voice comes through the thin air. The proud Patricia immediately feels a chill down her spine and quickly clarifies that's not what she meant. Kazan passes by her and walks straight to Ailona. Looking at the bright red handprint on the woman's face, his eyes turn crimson and his expression becomes terrifyingly dark. Patricia, you know that this kind of unauthorized touching of others' property is a crime. What punishment do you think you'll receive for hitting my slave? Kazan shows Patricia no mercy whatsoever. Patricia trembles all over, only able to bow and apologize repeatedly. After Kazan leaves, his gaze pierces deeply into her. If she truly inflicts substantial harm on Ailona, her life might be over. Patricia leads Ailona to a hot spring, where no one will disturb Ailona, and she can quietly stay alone for a while. Ailona is truly exhausted. Everything that happened during the day proves that Kazan is a descendant of the gods. He possesses powerful divine power and immortal life, which also reveals the truth behind his feigned death back then. Ailona should be happy, but Kazan's concealment forces her to re-examine this relationship. He never revealed his true heart, so perhaps the love was fake. Ailona's tears flow uncontrollably. She stays in the corner crying inconsolably. Kazan approaches expressionlessly from behind. Ailona has no mood to deal with this man, stating directly that she doesn't want to see him today. Kazan came to hear her explain the misunderstanding, but now she wants to drive him away, which angers him and makes him feel deceived. Ailona doesn't want to be misunderstood again. Kazan, I don't know how to face you. Did you ever truly love me? Why didn't you dare tell me you were a prince, even if I was an incompetent princess? If you had told me, maybe our ending would have been different. Different? Kazan finds it utterly ridiculous. Ailona, are you saying that if I had told you my identity, you would have agreed to elope with me? You're foolishly laughable. You could have done it even if I were a slave, but you were unwilling to risk anything for me as a slave. Ailona, you know what? I gave you a chance, but you destroyed everything with your own hands. Kazan violently pulls her under himself. His cold gaze alone sends chills through one's heart. Faced with Ailona's questioning, Kazan's previously stable emotions become agitated. He pushes her into the hot spring without mercy. His large hands remove the robe from his body. Ailona watches him nervously and helplessly as he slowly approaches her. The past 7 years have been like a nightmare. To achieve victory on the battlefield, Kazan had to engage in endless killing every day. Even in the end, he personally killed his own compatriots. To ascend to this throne, he endured much suffering. But Ailona, as a princess, knew nothing of this. Now that he has returned, everything Ailona suffers is deserved. Kazan's large hands pull her into his embrace. Ailona struggles and refuses. She doesn't want to continue with this man. But Kazan is unwilling. Ailona is now my slave and must obey my commands. For the past 7 years, Kazan hasn't stopped thinking about Ailona for a moment. And now that he finally has the chance, he can't possibly let her go. Ailona whimpers as he torments her considerably. She doesn't understand why 2 people who loved each other have become like this. 12 years ago, Ailona secretly slipped out of the palace with her brother. They came to a place like a theater. Ailona carefully followed along, but as soon as she entered, she noticed something was wrong. Several young girls were chained for people's entertainment. Ailona quietly asks her brother what this place is. Antonio laughs wantonly without answering. Then a voice comes from the stage. Welcome to today's guests. The auction will begin shortly. The first item is a 7-year-old girl. Her body is very healthy. The girl is chained like a pet. What do you think this place is? It's a place for buying and selling slaves. Ailona's face turns pale with horror, completely unprepared for this. She quietly begs Antonio not to participate, but he sternly refuses. If she continues complaining, Antonio will leave immediately. Ailona fears he will abandon her, so she can only choose to remain silent. The boys and girls on stage are bought and sold like commodities. Ailona feels extremely oppressed, truly disliking and even despising it. She avoids looking by keeping her head down in her seat. until the auction reaches its final stage. The red cloth is lifted, revealing a red-eyed young man. He is Kazan, the most outstanding man in Ashatla. With such handsome features, even the indifferent Ailona is mesmerized. The cold and proud young man in the cage seems to notice her and secretly glances back at her. Ailona instinctively covers the right side of her face with her hat. She doesn't want to be seen by this young man. But she still can't escape her brother's eyes. He bluntly exposes Ailona. "Do you want that young man?" Ailona's face reddens as she strongly objects. Unexpectedly, an explosion suddenly occurs at the auction site. Everyone is frightened and scattered in panic. The fire spreads rapidly and some people are quickly trapped. The main door is destroyed and staff urgently direct evacuation from the back. Antonio runs away without caring about his sister at all. Ailona shouts a few times before giving up. Suddenly she thinks of something and looks toward the cage on stage. The young man hoarsely crashes against the cage trying to get out. If she just leaves like this, the young man will very likely die. Ailona risks danger to pick up the keys from the ground. She doesn't want to see innocent people get hurt. "We need to get out of here quickly!" Ailona shouts to the young man in the cage. The fire has completely burned in, and the entire auction site is beginning to collapse. Although Ailona manages to dodge several large pieces of wood, the next second she's attacked by a large stone. Fortunately, at the critical moment, the young man shields her. They are trapped by stone blocks, and the flowing blood makes Ailona panic. She has never seen so much blood before. Ailona carefully supports the injured young man. She must quickly get him out to find a doctor. But stumbling with every step, she really struggles. The young man gently lifts her into his arms. "Princess, hold me tight, I run faster." Thinking of the former Kazan, Ailona can't help but sigh. Such a gentle person was so domineering and savage last night. Ailona doesn't even know how she finally fell asleep. She can do nothing and doesn't know what she can do now. Ailona stands bored on the balcony. The desert of Ashatla is more beautiful than imagined. The distant desert is indeed beautiful. Suddenly a man's voice comes from the air, but observing it closely reveals it's very dangerous. For example, I can hide behind the vines. A disheveled, strange man emerges. "Who are you?" He tidies the leaves on his body. "Very pleased to meet such a beautiful lady here." "I'm Aslan." The man stares intently at Ailona. The strange man openly reveals his identity. Ailona immediately states her own name. What she doesn't expect is that the man actually knows her. Ailona doesn't know that because of her sensitive status once her name is mentioned. No one doesn't recognize her as His Imperial Majesty's favored slave. Aslan feels sorry about these words, but he really wanted to meet Ailona. Ailona finds it baffling. She wants to lean out and ask the man why, but as soon as her hand touches the railing, she gets cut. Aslan watches nervously from below. Strong Ailona doesn't want to trouble others, so she comforts the man that she's fine, just bleeding a little. But Aslan sees the loneliness in her eyes. He warmly invites him to go to the corner together. "No one will disturb us there." Ailona doesn't understand. Aslan mentions his heavy bag. He just returned from the temple, so he brought some herbs. Ailona is somewhat surprised. This person is actually a priest. The injury isn't very serious, just need to stop the bleeding. There's extra fabric in the room, so she simply treats it. However, her bandaging technique is terrible, so poor it will affect her daily use of her hand. Aslan decides to personally rebandage it for her. Ailona really likes this treatment. His hands are much more comfortable. Aslan wants to give her more medicine, but the temple's medicine supply is running short. Ailona finds it strange, but through her conversation with Aslan, she learns other clues. Like her, Aslan is also hated by the gods. But she doesn't know Aslan possesses the ability to foresee the future, and he came specifically to see her for this reason. After they part, Kazan immediately notices the wound on Ailona's palm. But his expression is inscrutable. Defeated nations' envoys come for an audience, and according to custom, they must offer tributes and slaves to Ashatla. The slaves include the king's daughter. He trembles nervously while speaking. Everyone expects Kazan to accept like other powerful nations, but he actually refuses. Hanoku wants to say something, but Kazan immediately interrupts him, accepting no one else's opinions. Ashatla doesn't need to oppress slaves. Ailona stands behind him, hearing everything he says. She's truly comforted that her Kazan is a benevolent ruler. The quiet hall suddenly fills with commotion. Everyone is extremely surprised. The priest has actually come to the palace. He risks being beheaded to come here, because he had a dream last night, one concerning Kazan and Ailona's future. Aslan saw Kazan and Ailona's future? It was desolate and lonely glory. Ailona feels extremely shocked, but Kazan beside her shows strong resistance. He scoffs at it. Aslan already anticipated this reaction, but if Kazan wants to know how to break it, he'll wait for him at the temple. Before leaving, Aslan leaves one sentence. "Please pay attention to that woman." Kazan's expression remains tense. After the banquet, he can't wait to take Ailona away. Ailona met Aslan privately, and his possessive jealousy makes him very angry. But the bloody wound is right there, and Kazan can't help but feel heartbroken. He sighs helplessly. "If you're injured, tell me and I'll find you a doctor. Don't get involved with Aslan anymore." Ailona doesn't want to. That man saw our future. Kazan was once betrayed by Aslan, and he firmly believes everything is his lie to manipulate others. Moreover, even knowing the future can't change anything. Ailona disagrees with his view. In my heart, anything related to Kazan is very important. Then will you betray me again? Kazan's sharp gaze looks at Ailona. Ailona feels extremely wronged. Kazan still doubts her even now. Everything she did was to protect him. In fact, Kazan believed in Ailona until the very end, even when she so cruelly said they should break up. After she left that day, Samira used all his possessions to bribe the guards and came to the prison. Kazan told Samira about Ailona's cruel words. Samira thought Ailona wanted to save her life, but Kazan believed it was just her expedient measure. Everything was Antonio's conspiracy. The Ailona I know wouldn't do such things. Kazan asked Samira to deliver a message to Ailona, but Samira strongly opposed it. Kazan would be sent to the execution platform at noon, and what he should worry about most now is himself. Kazan patiently comforts Samira because he has planned everything. Just ask Ailona to meet at the old place at midnight, and Kazan believes she will come. Then they can go to Ashatla together to live. Kazan thinks this way naturally, not knowing that cunning Antonio has already planned everything. Kazan tells Samira his plan once more. Ailona is now being watched by Antonio, and only Samira has a chance to contact her. So the task of rescuing Ailona can only be entrusted to him. After Samira leaves, Kazan follows the plan and knocks out the prison guard. He fumbles to open the main door. He thinks everything is going smoothly. Then Samira runs back anxiously. He has an additional document in his hand. The letter states that Princess Ailona reported the man to the king, begging for his immediate execution. Obviously, Ailona betrayed Kazan. Kazan knows Ailona wouldn't do this, and he believes this document must have been tampered with by someone with ulterior motives. The person behind it is most likely Antonio. Kazan must go find Ailona according to plan, otherwise given Antonio's character, Ailona might be in a dangerous situation. Compared to Kazan's complete trust in Ailona, Samira insists she has already betrayed him. The palace rumor that she will marry the neighboring king is also true. Kazan trusts Ailona and insists on acting according to plan. However, what they ultimately await is Antonio's cruel massacre. Kazan will never forget that day. He woke up from a pile of corpses, with Samira's cold body lying beside him. He buries Samira with tears in his eye. And all these tragic consequences were caused by trusting you. I trusted you, and Samira lost his young life because of it. Ailona defends herself grievously. Antonio imprisoned me, I knew nothing. But 2 innocent lives died because of your betrayal. Ailona, how can you make me trust you? Faced with the man's forceful questioning, Ailona doesn't know what to say. She repeats tearfully that she didn't lie. I did receive Samira's letter that day, but to protect you I had to act like I didn't care. I really loved you so much. That day my brother said he'd take me to the tower, but changed his mind on the way and killed you in front of me. Ailona helplessly describes the situation. Then I made every preparation to protect Kazan, even trading my freedom for it. But in the end, my brother still treacherously betrayed us. Kazan stares at the hysterical Ailona with crimson eyes. He says nothing. Kazan violently pins her against the pillar with his large hands, and Ailona cries out in shock, demanding him to stop. Kazan's eyes are fierce and cold, completely unmoved. Having been betrayed, he cannot possibly trust Ailona again. And he wants to bind this woman to his side forever, as if only this way can Kazan vent the hatred in his heart. Kazan keeps pressing against the woman from behind, and the more Ailona suffers, the more ruthlessly he torments her. This situation continues for an entire night, and Ailona never gets to see Kazan's face until the end. Moreover, from that day on, he never appears again. Ailona knows that Kazan still does not trust her, but he said that document was given by Mr. Shile, and she cannot help but suspect it was her brother Antonio's doing. The contradiction is that Mr. Shile treats her well like a father, and he would never harm her. Ailona is troubled and has no appetite for the food on the table. Patricia looks displeased and orders her to finish eating. Ailona's delicate appearance irritates her greatly, and she storms off with the plate in frustration. Ailona immediately feels relieved. Suddenly there is movement outside the window, and Ailona follows the rolling stones outside. When she looks back, it is actually Aslan. Aslan signals Ailona to come over quickly and not make a sound. He is really so interesting. Ailona laughs happily at his antics, thinking that Ailona is not used to the food here. He has gathered some fruits for her. Although they are not as good as what she ate before, they are still more palatable than Alatra's meals. Ailona holds the fruit basket, feeling flattered. She does not understand why Aslan treats her so well, especially when everyone here hates her intensely. Aslan does not avoid the topic, and directly tells her that in his dreams, he saw her as the woman standing beside Kazan. Compared to this, Ailona is more interested in knowing about Kazan's future. This is somewhat difficult for Aslan. He can tell Ailona about the prophecy of his life, but it must be done in the temple. The temple? Ailona is confined by Kazan and has no opportunity to go out. Aslan thinks of a good solution. Once the celebration festival ends, the night of blessing will begin, and Kazan will be occupied with prayers and cannot get away. So Ailona can quietly go to the temple. By then, Aslan will be waiting in the back garden. Patricia, who has been eavesdropping behind the pillar, is discovered by Aslan. To prevent her from revealing the secret, Aslan uses his authority as deputy leader to order her to keep quiet. Patricia is afraid of divine retribution and dares not disobey. Ailona cannot help but examine this man carefully. Kazan had said that Aslan is good at deception, and once you listen to him, you will face betrayal. But Aslan can foresee their future, and Ailona dares not gamble with Kazan's prospects. As long as there is even a slim chance to make amends, she is willing to try. This time she chooses to trust Aslan. The news of Ailona and Kazan's Cold War quickly spreads outside the palace, and everyone believes she has fallen from grace, while Patisha is the one Kazan favors. The men and women at the table gossip about it, and Patisha's mood improves considerably. Confidently believing that Kazan would not fancy a delicate flower like Ailona, and only a strong person like herself is worthy, she looks contemptuously toward the platform, anticipating the day when Ailona will be abandoned. However, before she can celebrate too long, she is severely humiliated. The two people in their Cold War actually interact, with Kazan gently pouring wine into Ailona's cup, and the two of them get along like a sweet married couple. Many people witness this scene, and Patisha awkwardly gets up and leaves. She really cannot bear such humiliation. Ailona carefully sips the wine, somewhat unable to understand Kazan. For a long time, Ailona's body has been allergic to alcohol, and Kazan always prevents her from drinking. Finally having the opportunity, Ailona wants to drink to her heart's content. Kazan keeps watching from the side, and if she continues drinking like this, Ailona will soon be drunk. Kazan quickly intervenes to stop her. Ailona is somewhat angry, as the former Kazan indulged her in every way. When she got drunk, he would thoughtfully carry her home. The Kazan of those days also never hid his possessiveness, demanding that Ailona could only drink when he was present. Ailona recalls those past days with great nostalgia. She smiles happily at the man. Kazan momentarily wonders what happy memory she is thinking of. "Kazan, aren't you curious about our future?" Ailona asks boldly, emboldened by the alcohol. Kazan still avoids the topic as always, believing that those uncertain prophecies are meaningless to him. Ailona beside him does not continue questioning. Her cheeks are flushed, clearly already intoxicated. The drunk Ailona becomes bolder, reaching out to grab Kazan's arm and not letting go. Rambling about the diary she has written, Kazan does not take it seriously, dismissing it all as drunken nonsense. He quietly watches Ailona. Ailona consumes too much alcohol and falls into a confused slumber. Her entire body leans against Kazan. Kazan is quite helpless and gets up to carry her in his arms, claiming to the crowd that he needs to prepare for the blessing ceremony and must leave early. The soldiers below are stunned, as their majesty has once again broken his principles for that slave. Kazan leaves the remaining festival matters to Todan, and also instructs Todan to carefully check Ailona's luggage from when she arrived, to see if they can find that diary. If they really cannot find it, he will have to send people to Peijon. Patisha approaches with wine, clearly intending to have a drink with Kazan. However, Kazan completely ignores her, walking straight past her. Patisha's face turns red with anger and humiliation, but she dares not speak. Kazan places the drunk Ailona on the bed, and dismisses all the servants from the room. Ailona keeps murmuring Kazan's name in her confusion. Her vulnerable appearance evokes deep pity. Kazan cannot help but remember the days when she was injured by the explosion while drunk, when Ailona also pitifully prayed to heaven to let her live. But in the end, Ailona still betrayed him. Kazan stares at the woman on the bed with complex emotions. He loves Ailona and also despises her. When Kazan comes out of the room, he unexpectedly sees Patisha. She is in a good mood, saying she wants to personally escort her back to her room. Kazan looks grave, not understanding what she intends to do. Who would have thought that Patisha would recklessly reach out to caress his body? She considers herself the most excellent person by Kazan's side, and pleads in a flattering voice to serve him tonight. Kazan is disgusted and quickly grabs Patisha by the throat with his large hand. His eyes are bloodshot as he stares at the reckless fool before him. If it were not for remembering that Patisha had helped him during the Great War, she would already be dead. If there is a next time, he will not be lenient. Patisha is furious inside, and blames everything on Ailona. Remembering the conversation between Ailona and the high priest during the day, she devises a plan. She pretends to admit her mistake to Kazan, saying she just wanted to help him release his emotions, without any personal intentions, and suggests holding another banquet after the blessing ceremony, so that Kazan can also rest properly for a while. Kazan does not think much of it and agrees to this suggestion. Little does he know he has given Patisha an opportunity to frame Ailona. Ailona wakes up from the bed, having blacked out after getting drunk last night. However, she has no time to think about it, as today is the day she and Aslan have arranged to meet. She walks to the balcony, where Aslan waits with a cloak. Aslan successfully meets with Ailona. However, Ailona's slightly red face shows she did not sleep well. Aslan hears that she drank too much last night and quickly produces an antidote. Ailona gulps it down. Aslan beside her bursts into laughter. The soldiers at the banquet are all saying that Lord Kazan's slave got drunk. "Seeing you like this now, it must be true?" Ailona is confused, asking if she has caused trouble for Kazan. "Ailona, think positively. This might be an opportunity for you." As they talk, they arrive at their destination. Ailona is surprised to find that the sacred temple looks quite shabby, not much different from a slum. Aslan tells Ailona to relax, as they do not care about such things anyway. Ailona understands in her heart that this must be related to Kazan. She asks Aslan why they fell out. Aslan looks troubled. The situation is quite complex. "I can talk about it, but regarding the future, I cannot reveal it." Kazan has been different from others since childhood, acting like a little old man at such a young age, with a strange and domineering temper. Ailona imagines that scene and laughs inappropriately. Although I have been his companion since childhood, it still took me a long time to get close to him. I can understand him, as someone of his status is very wary of giving trust. Royal power struggles easily bring disaster. Although Kazan is the youngest prince, he has always been hated by the sanctuary because his mother was originally a priest candidate, but she chose the position of queen instead, becoming an enemy of the sanctuary. Aslan and she walk all the way to the temple entrance. Because time is limited, Aslan cannot continue the story. Ailona feels somewhat dejected. Although she and Kazan had a loving period together, he never told her about these things. The door opens and they enter the basement barefoot. Soon they arrive at the waterfall. Ailona is mesmerized by the beautiful scenery before her. Aslan explains that this is the place where the deity is worshipped. So before this, Ailona must first obtain the god's permission. Ailona is puzzled. Has the god ever refused others? Yes, Lugod only likes pure souls. He guides Ailona to cup the water from the pool and drink it. Ailona is skeptical and takes a small sip of the water. It's sweet, Ailona exclaims joyfully. Aslan immediately breathes a sigh of relief. With Lugod's approval, he can finally speak freely. In my dreams, Ailona, you are an important figure who determines Elatra's prosperity. However, in this process, you will experience death. But as long as you do not abandon this land, everything will work out. Ailona is confused by his words. She does not understand what the so-called death represents. Ailona! A man's furious voice echoes through the air. Ailona turns to look, and the person approaching is actually Kazan. Originally, Kazan was in the blessing ceremony, engaged in devout prayer. But today, for some reason, it is much more difficult than usual. He thinks of the drunk Ailona, and perhaps that woman is waiting for him. Kazan decides to end the prayer early. Perhaps they have been apart too long, and Kazan wants to see Ailona immediately. As soon as he finishes, he comes to Ailona's residence. Batisha and the others see this, and immediately step forward to greet him. Kazan orders them to prepare dinner and serve it, as he wants to go in and wait first. Hearing this, Batisha falls to her knees. Please spare my life, your majesty. The slave you are looking for is not in the palace. Someone ordered me to keep silent about this matter. The maid beside her also kneels down. She says in a trembling voice, Your Majesty, it was all Lord Aslan's orders. He took away your slave. The two of them speak in unison. Kazan's previously expressionless face becomes grim. Todan, bring me my horse. Seeing Kazan's angry appearance, Batisha secretly smiles with satisfaction. However, Kazan's next words bring her back to reality. Their clumsy acting cannot escape Kazan's eyes. So for this negligence, Kazan punishes Batisha and the others with 5 lashes each. Batisha looks incredulous and chases after him, shouting that this treatment is unfair. Kazan does not indulge her and publicly exposes her scheming with a cold face. Batisha behind him trembles with rage. Kazan orders Ailona to come over. Aslan beside her speaks first. Since your majesty ascended the throne, you have never entered this place. Today is truly my honor. Seeing Aslan, Kazan becomes furious. Aslan, shut up. Kazan, it's not good to use foul language in front of the god. Doesn't the god also have a tongue? Kazan scoffs dismissively. Well, since you're here, why not listen to the prophecy? Kazan does not respond and forcefully orders Ailona to come over. Ailona does not want to escalate their conflict again and can only obediently return to Kazan's side. Kazan grabs her hand and hurriedly walks outside. He truly does not want to stay a moment longer. Aslan's prediction is indeed correct. Although Kazan claims not to care about Ailona, in his heart he values her more than anyone else. Ailona is violently thrown to the ground. Her escape makes Kazan very angry. Ailona feels somewhat wronged. I just wanted to know about our future. You know, in Elatra, only Aslan is kind to me. His words are the hope that keeps me going. Hope? Kazan finds it ridiculous. I once considered Aslan my only friend, but the truth is that he participated in instigating my mother's death. Ailona is shocked. She does not believe it and thinks there must be some misunderstanding. Kazan is truly enraged, and he violently shackles Ailona's hands. He wants to make sure Ailona cannot leave this room for days. Ailona's hands are bound by Kazan with chains. He orders the woman to turn around. Ailona pitifully stares at the man without moving. Kazan feels his order is being ignored, and he pulls out a whip, threatening that if she does not obey, he will strike Ailona. Ailona is very confused. Kazan, are you angry because I went to see Aslan? You know I don't like him. Why are you still doing this? But his words are very important to you. You have only known each other for a few days. Ailona, do you know? If I had not believed Aslan's words that day, my mother would not have died there. Ailona's reaction greatly displeases Kazan. He forcefully throws her onto the bed. Ailona, you brought all this upon yourself, now I order you to turn around? Ailona is so frightened that her body goes limp. Kazan swings the whip in his hand toward her back. Ailona writhes in pain, her entire body curling up. She pitifully begs the man to spare her. Kazan maliciously leans close to her ear. If you move again, the whip will come down once more. Ailona is exhausted and gasping for breath, while Kazan becomes increasingly energetic. He stops the whip and presses his body tightly against Ailona. In the end, no one remembers how much time has passed. Ailona only knows that she was dehydrated from exhaustion that night. while Kazan on top of her was excited like a lion, madly chasing after her from behind. They mutually torment and hurt each other. A sudden riot breaks out at the border. Even though troops are sent to suppress it, the casualties continue to increase, and the army cannot completely quell the unrest. Kazan cannot help but frown. It seems I need to handle this personally. Patisha is confused. For him, General Todan could handle it when necessary, but what the people need is not authoritarian suppression, but genuine listening. As a nation's ruler, Kazan bears great responsibility. Todan can depart at any time. They plan to go for 15 days. Kazan cannot help but think of Ailona's diary. However, Todan has not found it yet. He thinks that diary might just be a few pieces of paper wrapped in bark, so they need to change their approach in searching. Patisha listens from the side, secretly noting this important diary in her mind. How is Ailona doing now? Kazan suddenly changes the subject. Patisha is somewhat caught off guard. She still hasn't eaten. Although I have added various medicines to her food, Ailona still has not recovered. Kazan's expression is cold, but it is clear he is very unhappy. Patisha, prepare 2 cups of tea with milk. I want to go to Manhwa Palace to see. Ailona sits listlessly on the edge of the bed, her eyes vacant and numb as she stares out the window. Kazan softly calls her name once. Ailona does not respond. Kazan persists and continues calling her. Ailona, I have prepared some tea and snacks. Come and have some. But Ailona keeps her head down, giving no response whatsoever. Kazan feels indescribable irritation in his heart. He gets up and pulls open the curtains. Ailona, after we meet today, we will not see each other for a long time. Ailona looks up in surprise. So you are going to war? If the country needs me, I will depart immediately. I had Patisha prepare dinner. For me, it is a very precious meal. Ailona stares blankly without responding. Kazan's previously gentle face immediately turns pale. He becomes furious and picks up the milk tea prepared on the table. Ailona, open your mouth and drink this. It contains energy that will help you recover quickly. Ailona's eyes are deathly dim. Kazan, if you die, what will happen to me? Will I die too? Ailona's sorrowful voice echoes in the room. Kazan's eyes dart away. He forcefully places the milk tea in Ailona's palm. Ailona, if you are so curious about that, you can try killing me. After saying this, Kazan leaves. Ailona stares blankly at herself in the mirror. Todan has arranged everything. They decide to depart for the border today. It is currently the height of summer heat, and Todan suggests it is best to depart at sunrise. This journey will be longer than any previous one. Kazan is very worried about Ailona's condition. He immediately instructs Todan to schedule travel time during the evening as much as possible. We must finish within 15 days. As soon as Kazan and his party leave the palace, Patisha bribes the guards of Pajion Palace. In everyone's eyes, Patisha will be the future queen. Even she herself believes this, so whatever her demands, the guards dare not disobey. Patisha carries a kerosene lamp and searches around the room. Ailona's appearance has given her a sense of crisis. She heard that Kazan and his people seem to be looking for some important document, so she has the scheming idea to find it first. When she was in Pajion, she had heard rumors that the document has a very important connection to Ailona. Patisha must find and destroy it before they do. She cannot give Ailona any chance to steal Kazan away. Patisha repeatedly examines many similar books. Finally, when she opens another one, her eyes light up with excitement. This time, she wants Ailona to disappear forever. At dawn, Patisha brings food to the bedroom. The weak Ailona struggles to sit up from the bed. Patisha cannot stand her demeanor, and mockingly says to her, looking at you like this, I really want to go see Omar's largest trailer. Ailona feels strangely familiar with this place. However, before she can think more, Patisha urges her to get up quickly. She threatens aggressively that if she does not eat, she will force the food into her mouth. Ailona looks at the food on the plate, and she is somewhat surprised. She did not expect Kazan to prepare Pajion food for her. Ailona uses a spoon to scoop some and brings it to her mouth for a small taste. Patisha is very dissatisfied and urges her to eat quickly, as there is work to do later. According to Patisha, Ailona does nothing but stay in her room all day, so she wants to assign her some tasks. This is a jilan flower. Patisha carefully picks up one and brings it to her nose to smell lightly. This flower smells very fragrant, but it will be more beautiful with some arrangement. We have no time to waste. Ailona, begin. As soon as Ailona picks up a flower, her finger is cut by a thorn. Patisha feels extremely annoyed and scolds, didn't you see the barbs on the flower stem? No matter what, you must finish arranging all of these. Ailona does not argue. For her, doing something else is also good, and she does not have to be constantly troubled by emotions. Ailona stubbornly picks up flowers to trim, even though her fingers are scratched. And bleeding profusely, she does not stop. Suddenly, she feels dizzy in her head. She collapses lifelessly on the sofa chair. Patisha behind her shows a satisfied smile. Take her back to her room. After this, do not wake her until she recovers on her own. Kazan's group at the border has reached their destination. After this trip, Kazan decides to treat Ailona well. Todan comes forward. They have found the real cause of the border rebellion. The local residents live quite poorly and simply, but they have inexplicably incurred huge high-interest debts. They simply cannot bear the burden. The investigation reveals that all the lenders are employed and directed by Haruku. The villagers began to resist after learning the truth. Kazan keeps his head down, his face growing darker. He instructs Todan to act immediately, arrest all those involved in the rebellion and malicious lending. Especially do not let Haruko escape. On the other side, since Ailona was poisoned and fell unconscious, she often makes murmuring sounds while lying in bed. The guard's maid tells her that Ailona has been in this state for 3 days. Patricia feels satisfied. Her flower poison has begun to take effect. This time, no matter what, she will make Ailona die. She has arranged everything. When the incident happens, the maid will come forward to take the blame, admitting that her negligent guard duty caused Ailona's death. After the deed is done, Patricia will give the maid's family a generous reward. Thinking of the moment when Kazan returns to see Ailona's corpse, Patricia feels a dark satisfaction. Due to the poisoning, Ailona's entire body lacks any strength. The wounds scratched by the thorny branches still ache. Ailona can sense her life force gradually dissipating, but she does not want to die at all. If she dies, she will never see Kazan again. She remembers that year when she was seriously ill, lying alone in bed. In her delirium, she heard Kazan's voice. She opened her eyes, and there he was, standing beside her bed. Ailona was somewhat surprised. How did he get in here? Kazan pointed to the open window. He had climbed in through there. Ailona's face showed worry. She whispered a reminder to Kazan, "Don't climb through windows in the future." Doing so carelessly could result in falling off the cliff. Kazan did not argue. He took out the prepared medicine and handed it to Ailona. The room was dim, with no one else besides Ailona. Kazan found it strange. Ailona is a princess of the kingdom, after all. Ailona smiled awkwardly. My brother doesn't like me, so everyone fears him. As a result, Ailona is not well regarded in the palace. However, Ailona has long accepted all of this. Are you this kind to everyone? I heard from others that, after I was injured and unconscious at the auction, you stayed by my side day and night to care for me. No, it's not like that. Because you saved me first, I repaid you in the same way. Although I cannot restore your civilian status, I will not torture slaves like my brother does. I really hate the auction's practice of human trafficking. Kazan was deeply moved. He decided then and there that Ailona would be his only master. No matter what difficulties he encountered, he would guard Ailona's side. Ailona's tears flowed freely. This was the first time someone had stood by her side. She was deeply moved. Kazan also kept his promise faithfully. Whenever Ailona encountered any trouble, he could always appear at the first moment to help her. Gradually, Ailona opened her heart to him. This day, soldiers were surrounding a slave and bullying him. Ailona happened to witness this. She scolded loudly. Why are you bullying a child? Those soldiers completely ignored her, princess. I advise you not to meddle in other people's business. This slave has been abandoned by his master, so now we can do whatever we want with him. Ailona could not bear it. She glanced at Kazan, seeming to gain some kind of strength. She actually stepped forward. I want that slave, and this slave was Samira. Kazan carefully bandaged Samira's wounds. Ailona's anxious heart finally relaxed. She was really extremely worried about this girl. Although Ailona saved Samira in this man-eating kingdom, it was difficult for Samira to believe there were good people. Kazan beside them saw his concerns, and directly told him that he too was rescued from danger by Ailona. She is a truly good person. Only then did Samira open her heart to them. Ailona was truly overjoyed. All along, she felt that Kazan was very lonely in the palace. Now with Samira added, he would have companionship. Samira tentatively inquired about Kazan's background. Unexpectedly, they were both from Alatra. They shared many common memories of their homeland. Kazan and Samira chatted and laughed together. Ailona on the side had no chance to interject at all. She could not help but feel conflicted inside. She seemed unwilling to share her Kazan with others. In the palace hall, Ailona stands alone in the center. She hums rhythmically with her mouth, but she cannot last even a minute before forgetting the next movement. Ailona feels extremely frustrated. At this moment, Kazan suddenly appears. She is somewhat surprised. Clearly, during the day, he said he would go to the city center with Samira. Kazan looks at Ailona with a doting expression. Aren't I worried that someone will be locked in the closet by Antonio tomorrow? If she still cannot remember the movements? Ailona, you forgot, didn't you? The teacher only demonstrated once. I could not possibly remember it completely. Kazan had already anticipated this would happen, so he came. Kazan extends his hand to Ailona. Relax. I will teach you the teacher's movements. He patiently teaches her movement by movement without getting tired. Ailona also progresses from initially stumbling to becoming skilled. Actually, Kazan never understood why Antonio hated Ailona. They are clearly siblings. Ailona sadly lowers her head. Antonio and I are half-siblings. His mother was a lowly concubine, and people around looked down on and ostracized him. He is jealous of me and blames everything on me. Kazan feels sorry about this. Ailona, you must believe in yourself. You are a very brave princess. Kazan is truly a very good person. But thinking that he treats Samira the same way, Ailona immediately feels somewhat jealous. Ailona, I want to take you to see something. Kazan nervously asks for Ailona's opinion. Ailona does not hesitate, and immediately agrees. Kazan carefully covers her eyes and brings her to the back of the palace. Ailona opens her eyes. She did not expect to see a field of purple flowers. Because it is behind the palace, not many people notice it. Kazan thinks it makes a good secret base for the two of them. Ailona is somewhat surprised. This time, Kazan actually did not tell Samira. It is a base that belongs exclusively to the two of them. Ailona's first dance debut goes very smoothly, but she still nervously wants Kazan to accompany her. So as soon as it ends, Kazan eagerly goes to see her. Unexpectedly, Ailona is currently being bothered by a black-haired man. The two of them are chatting and laughing. Kazan turns away disappointed, staying aside to guard. The black-haired man obviously has interest in Ailona, his words full of ambiguity. But innocent Ailona does not notice this, politely responding to the man's praise. The black-haired man does not have much patience. He raises his wine glass to entice Ailona to drink. Ailona cannot refuse, but she has poor alcohol tolerance and soon begins to feel dizzy. The black-haired man knows his opportunity has come. He embraces Ailona, wanting to take advantage of her. Fortunately, Kazan appears in time to stop the black-haired man. He uses Antonio's name to take her away. Fearing that Ailona might get hurt, Kazan carries her on his back the entire way. The wind blows across Ailona's cheeks, and she feels much better. But Kazan's tone is sullen. He is really angry. Ailona drank with a strange man. If he had not been there, he dare not imagine the consequences. Ailona knows she is in the wrong and does not argue with him. Looking at the beautiful flower field, Kazan, sit down and rest for a while. Alright. Have you ever drunk alcohol? No. Ailona feels somewhat regretful in her heart. Her eyes stare directly at Kazan. Suddenly, she moves close to the man. Kazan's cheeks turn bright red. Ailona actually took the initiative to kiss him. After kissing Kazan, Ailona becomes timid. She anxiously explains the misunderstanding, thinking in her heart that she just did it. Kazan remains silent after being kissed. Ailona thinks he is angry. Just as she is about to apologize, she finds herself embraced by him again. His tone is full of excitement and sadness. Ailona, I said Antonio's name to save you. I am very sorry I could not save you by my own strength, but I promise I will always protect you. So after the war ends, we will go to Ashatla together. Let us get married then. Ailona is moved to tears profusely. Kazan has no choice but to kiss her lips again. The culprit of the Northern Rebellion has been successfully captured. This time, the world must be given a warning. Kazan orders all participants to be brought to the square for execution by hanging. Haruku collapses on the ground, begging for mercy. He claims he was also deceived by others. That despicable appearance of shirking responsibility disgusts Kazan greatly. He angrily draws the blade from his waist. Haruku is scared half to death, his voice excited, desperately begging to be spared. The blade cuts Kazan's palm, blood dripping onto Haruku's head. He is truly frightened, crouching on the ground trembling. Kazan kicks the man away with one foot, take him away and confiscate all his property. The border rebellion thus ends. Kazan tells Todan to rest for 2 days before setting off. He will organize a team to advance first. Todan does not understand why he is so eager to return. Only Kazan himself knows that he has been away from the palace too long, and his longing for Ailona has reached its peak. Kazan's group returns to Alatra's capital in just a few days. The soldiers show happy smiles. They can finally sit down and rest properly. Kazan's heart has always been concerned about Ailona. He misses those former days greatly. If only Ailona had not betrayed him, the promise would still count. Kazan really wants to know what happens next in the story, but everything is meaningless now. That day, he and Samira waited for Ailona at the old place. They waited from dawn to dusk, but she never appeared, until they waited for Antonio's pursuit. Kazan was stabbed by a sword and fell to the ground, and Samira, who tried to protect him, also could not escape in time and was forever left on that land. Kazan cannot forget that day, but he never could understand why Ailona betrayed him. She had no reason to do such a thing. Antonio could have simply used force to take him away. Speaking of the secret base, only he and Ailona knew about it. Samira had no conditions to leak the secret. The only suspicious thing was the document Shail delivered to Ailona. The possibility of Shail being bought by Antonio cannot be ruled out. He is certain that some important matter has been overlooked. And now, Ailona's diary appears extremely important. Intuition tells Kazan that there lie the answers he seeks. The maid walking toward him sees Kazan and screams in shock. "Your Majesty! Are you not supposed to need several more days to arrive?" The maid's panicked appearance is clearly wrong. A bad premonition surges in Kazan's heart. Kazan dare not delay at all. He forcefully pushes away the door guarding maid with his arm. His steps are urgent as he rushes into Ailona's bedroom. However, the moment his gaze falls on the bed sheets, he panics. The originally lively and active Ailona lies there motionlessly. Kazan dare not make wild guesses. He carefully places his hand on Ailona's cheek. However, the cold temperature fills him with panic. Ailona sleeps unconsciously, completely still. Kazan tightly embraces Ailona, his voice breaking as he repeatedly calls Ailona's name, as if this way she would immediately wake up. Todan behind him immediately orders the doctor to be summoned. Kazan collapses as he drags the lifeless Ailona, his voice silent and trembling. "Ailona, don't sleep! Open your eyes and look at me!" What answers him is still Ailona's tightly closed eyes. Kazan's eyes turn red. He draws the long sword from his waist. "Did you make her become like this?" The maid is so frightened she collapses to the ground. Kazan's cold figure in the darkness is like a soul-claiming demon. The maid instinctively runs away frantically. Kazan directly cuts her hamstring, take her to a room for strict interrogation. If she still does not tell the truth and dies, you need not think about keeping your life either. The soldier and doctor both break into a cold sweat. The doctor gives Ailona a full examination and discovers she still has breath. Kazan immediately rekindles hope upon hearing this. Then is there any way to cure her? Reporting to your majesty, she has been poisoned by Jalan flower poison. This is a type of chronic spreading poison. If discovered early, recovery is possible. But now the toxin has penetrated deep into her bone marrow. Only the divine power of God Lu can save her. Kazan puts away his long sword. Ailona's condition is serious, and not a moment can be delayed. Kazan carefully holds her in his arms. His steps are urgent and panicked as he rushes toward the temple. However, Aslan has been waiting for a long time. He skillfully guides Kazan to God Lu's statue. They place Ailona in the water pool. Ailona has a pure heart. She has received God Lu's welcome, so the toxin can be purified by divine power. But this process requires some time. And during this time, you must stay here and pray sincerely for her. Kazan has no complaints. As long as there is a way to save Ailona, he is willing to do anything. After speaking, Kazan turns to leave. Aslan anxiously calls out to stop him. God Lu does not like killing. Kazan, please stop. Oh, is that so? But the god I believe in most enjoys killing and blood. Kazan's face is grim as he strides out of the basement. Ailona's poisoning by Jalan flower poison is clearly the result of someone's scheme. Kazan cannot possibly let the bad people get away with it. He rushes nonstop to the prison. The maid has been beaten bloody. Her miserable screams make one's scalp tingle. Do you know? Ailona is about to die. But I can only watch helplessly. The maid has long prepared herself for certain death, so she persistently insists she knows nothing. Kazan is truly going mad. His Ailona has been starved for 7 full days, yet these people act as if they know nothing. He orders the guards to continue whipping the maid until she tells the truth. Patisha nearby nervously stays behind, saying nothing. She did not expect Kazan to care so much about that slave. The maid is beaten until she faints before Kazan stops. He turns to look at Patisha. As a palace guard, you took no action whatsoever. As far as I know, you have always been full of hostility toward Ailona. I do not think you can clear yourself of involvement. I did not. Patisha is so nervous she stutters. Kazan is truly angry. She tremblingly kneels on the ground begging him to spare her. But seeing the man's blood-red cruel eyes, she feels that if this continues, she will be finished too. Your Majesty, I did not. Everything is a misunderstanding. I was just about to report to you, but you returned. Most importantly, I also found the slave's diary. Patisha signals to the guard beside her. Yes, Your Majesty. The slave's diary is here. Please spare me, Your Majesty. Patisha's eyes are filled with tears, as if she has suffered great injustice. Kazan remembers Aslan's words. God Lu does not like excessive killing. Patisha, you are commanded to house arrest immediately until the truth comes to light. All your subordinates will be spared nothing and expelled from the palace. You should remember that everything is because that God does not like killing. Kazan walks away coldly. Behind him, Patisha reveals a satisfied smile. She thought Ailona would certainly die. Little did she know that Ailona has only fallen into temporary dormancy. Kazan returns to the bedroom and eagerly opens the diary. However, seeing the contents inside, he completely panics. That fake death was too big a blow for Ailona. She never dared believe it was real. During the days of confinement, she did not stop thinking about Kazan for a moment. The diary records all her longing and love for Kazan. This makes Kazan both joyful and regretful. He helplessly kneels beside Ailona. He truly regrets it. As long as his Ailona can return, he is willing to exchange his life and give up everything. Kazan's tears flow freely. But Ailona's body shows no response. Now that the truth is before him, he has long seen his own heart clearly. If Ailona dies, he will not live alone either. The unconscious Ailona wakes up at the bottom of the water. Her body floats in the water without any restraint. She curiously picks a flower and places it in her palm. But the flower instantly disperses. Her light body makes her realize she might be dead. But at this moment, voices of Kazan and Aslan suddenly come from above. She tries hard to swim upward. Unexpectedly, her legs that were just free become entangled by water plants. Ailona does not want to give up. She struggles with all her might. However, her strength in the water is minimal. Since learning that Ailona did not betray him, Kazan has been wholeheartedly guarding by her side. Looking at Ailona's bloodless cheeks, Kazan feels infinite regret. Life without Ailona leaves him unable to breathe. He himself has long been very clear about this. He never thought of taking Ailona's life. Even when he previously mistakenly believed she betrayed him, he only felt hatred, domineeringly keeping her by his side for life. Kazan helplessly grasps Ailona's hand in repentance. If only he had believed from the beginning, perhaps the ending would not have become like this. At that time, Kazan and Aslan rushed to the temple. The queen had already finished the so-called ritual. She drank the ritual's holy water in one gulp. The enormous torment made her cry out in pain. Kazan was extremely worried on the side. He was truly afraid of losing such a close relative. However, his mother ultimately fell before him. He thought of what Aslan said, that God Lu possesses powerful divine power and can protect anyone. Kazan helplessly begged Aslan to use divine power to save his mother. But Aslan refused. The queen died. Kazan blamed all the mistakes on Aslan. Kazan cannot help but suspect this is God's punishment for him. but Ailona is his last family member in this world. Kazan carefully kisses Ailona's palm. God, please save her! Suddenly, Ailona's finger moves slightly. Kazan is overjoyed. Ailona, are you awake? Ailona seems to see the man's fear. She responds to Kazan's calls again and again, carefully straightening her body to sit up. Kazan's eyes light up. His Ailona has finally come back to life. Ailona wakes up in confusion. She does not know how long she has been unconscious. She is about to ask Kazan, but he has left. Ailona looks in surprise at her completely healed wounds. Clearly those scars had existed for a long time. Ailona, Aslan smiles gently as he walks toward her. How do you feel? If you have any discomfort, you must tell me. Aslan is very worried about Ailona's condition. After all, the Jalan flower poison has penetrated deep into her bone marrow. To cure it requires extreme caution. Aslan, thank you. Actually, I did not do much. You should thank His Majesty properly. To save you, he guarded by your side day and night praying to God. Even once wanting to live in the temple. His Majesty just left because of some business. Ailona is somewhat doubtful. She does not quite believe Kazan would be so considerate. After all, he had said such harsh words at the time. We are born to torment each other. Ailona finds herself quite ridiculous. She almost softened her heart and believed that man. But she clearly remembers that Kazan would rather believe groundless rumors than think of trusting her. Aslan on the side also feels uncomfortable. He changes the subject. Ailona, you still have residual toxins in your body. Let us go purify them now. Do not worry about purification. I will help you. It is a special holy water purification. Aslan brings Ailona to a tent. He works for a long time and takes out a bottle containing mysterious liquid. Ailona sits down in front of him. Aslan carefully opens the bottle. Unexpectedly, the room's candles instantly turn into beautiful blue flames. Ailona's eyes show surprise and nervousness. Aslan's voice gently guides her. Close your eyes. Under his guidance, she actually senses intense light. Ailona tries to open her eyes. Unexpectedly, she finds herself in a boundless desert. Aslan tells her to find a water source. She feels it is impossible to accomplish in the desert. Unexpectedly, at this moment, a tornado attacks her. She feels so uncomfortable she cannot open her eyes at all. But in her confusion, she seems to see a strange figure in the desert. Ailona screams in shock. Surprisingly, she successfully returns to the room. This treatment is finished. Aslan appears again. We now need to welcome the arrival of a friend. Ailona looks behind him. A short-haired, sharp woman strides over. Miss Ailona, I am Million, sent by His Majesty to receive you. I will replace Patisha's work in the future. Ailona expresses great surprise. Million says nothing. She must first escort her back to the palace. Throughout the journey, Ailona's mood is very complicated. Based on her understanding of Kazan, this